Greetings, everyone. David J. Coon with Qigong Awareness, the author of Qigong for Beginners, Your Path to Greater Health and Vitality, a book on Qigong, a book on my take on Qigong after 40 years of practicing it. But I also have a psychology background, a molecular cellular biology background, myself of a healed myself of a severe spinal disease that the doctor said would cripple me by the time I was 30. So I sort of have my own view on all of that, and some of that is captured in the book. Today, we're going to have a little conversation. I got a question from a follower who asked me the question, how do healers, gurus, and sages heal? And to keep this person anonymous, let's just call them Samantha. So, thank you, Samantha, for the question. It's an excellent question, a very interesting question. And I'm going to dive into it a little bit, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And not only do I hope you enjoy it, but I hope that you also perhaps experience some healing as we're actually hanging out together and answering the question. So, healers, sages, masters, teachers, gurus, if they are sincere and they are, well, let's say it this way, if they are sincere, then they're very practiced. And if they're very practiced, then they have a particular vibe that they bring with them wherever they go. Now, granted, in one moment, their vibe may be, say, higher vibrational than another. There may be moments where they themselves are going through various challenges or had a difficult day. For example, if you saw me at the end of the day, after I did a bunch of healing work with a whole bunch of different clients and so on, and I've spent 8 hours doing healing work with other people and helping them to clean out the soot or the grease, let's say, in their energy fields. So whether that was online or whether that was in person, I often say to people, you can be a really talented mechanic, but because of the nature of the business, you're always going to get grease on your hands, and grease is sometimes hard to wash off. So people will often ask me, well, how do you wash off that grease that you work with? I go back to the Qigong practices that I do. I go back to the martial arts practices that I do, the meditation practices that I do. So at the end of the day, for example, before I clear all that off, I may be, and other gurus, teachers, masters, may also be in some degree of heaviness from the work that they've been doing. If a guru did a seminar all weekend long and was around 2,000 people, you may not know it unless you were backstage and you were very close to that guru, but you may find out that that guru is pretty exhausted or tired or just lower vibration than how they started. Okay. So that's true, in my opinion, amongst all of the different healers, masters, teachers that I've seen, is that there is a very high level and a high standard that they hold themselves to that only comes, in most cases, from significant practice. Some people might say, for example, Eckhart Tolle, the author of The Power of Now. For example, some people might say, well, Eckhart was depressed. I heard that he had an awakening in the middle of his depression, and then somehow he's arrived to some type of awakened state. The average population would love that story because it's almost as if Eckhart didn't do any practice to get to where he is, seemingly. But in my opinion, although I've never heard Eckhart speak to this before, I can certainly see it in his eyes. He's been around the block many times. And I would bet any amount of money, although there's no way for us to 100% prove this, but I would bet any amount of money that Eckhart has been a monk many times. And that in this lifetime, he had a big remembrance of who he is and what we could call an awakening. So, how is it then that healers and sages and gurus, I didn't forget the question, how is it they heal? Number one, they heal simply through their presence. And what is their presence? It's the remembrance of who they are. It's the awakening from what the Buddhists would call samsara, the cycles of death and rebirth. But even before there's a total awakening, like a Buddha would have an awakening from what they call samsara, uh, the need to reincarnate and so on. That teacher, in some way, shape, or form, has to first break away to some degree from the physical. They have to break away to some degree from the emotional. That's even harder, by the way. And then they have to break away from the mental tapes that go along with the physical, the mental, and the emotional. In Eckhart's book, for example, and I refer to this in my book as well, Qigong for Beginners, there is a reference to what is called, what Eckhart calls the pain body, and what Qigong masters and yogis and so on have referred to as the emotional body for 5,000 plus years. The disidentification with the emotional body, the return to peace, the return to presence. It's been described in various practices such as Qigong and yoga and meditation, even in certain martial arts schools and so on. There's a washing that needs to happen. That's why a lot of these emotions, like in Qigong and so on, they literally look like washing because it is. It's a washing of the physical. Breath washes away the emotional if we use it properly. It also quiets the mind. So the collective of the physical, the emotional, and the mental in a sage, in a guru, in a healer is significantly more clean and therefore more quiet than what the average person deals with on a daily basis. In my own story of growing up and healing myself of a severe spinal disease, along with a lot of other mental, emotional, physical issues, I had to do a lot of practice. I had to do a lot of washing. I had to do a lot of what I would refer to as purification. And in the Japanese arts, there's a lot of conversation about purification or the soji, the washing away, the clearing, the purging. And we hear this in Zen, we hear it in various different types of practices. But anyway, washing away is very, very important. So, with a healer, with a guru, with a sage, anyone who's legit, they are literally walking around more purified than their neighbor. And when we talk about this purification, let me speak to it a little bit, try and make it as clear as I can make it. In Buddhism, we hear this reference to a person's true nature. Their true nature is like presence, it's their authentic self. In Zen, sometimes you'll hear the teaching that says that our insides are like a polished diamond, like deep within us, but the diamond has become covered in soot and dirt and so on. And that's related to incarnation. And it's not referred to as a sin, as some religions, for example, refer to that idea as like being a sin or something. Coming here and getting involved in things like greed and envy and jealousy and anger and fear and anxiety and all of these other kinds of things. But these come with the physical earth school. So if you've never heard that reference before, maybe you're hearing it for the first time, physical earth school. And when we come here to the physical earth school, we're faced with these various challenges. Now, a guru, a sage, a master, anything like this, a healer, including healers like myself that do physical healings, okay, which are really energetic healings. How does that all play in? Well, number one, everyone has a true nature. Everyone has an essence that to a Christ, to a Buddha, to a sage, to a master, to a healer that is any good. We'll just say that. They always look to the light in the person. They don't pay attention to the soot and the dirt and the intense grief that the person is feeling. Yes, they'll see it. Yes, they'll have compassion for it, but they're not locked into it or onto it. They're not judging it. That's a big hint, by the way, of what they're not doing. High level healers, sages, masters, and gurus do not judge no matter what you bring them. No matter what you bring them, no matter how broken you are, no matter how identified you are with it. Take a breath if you can. Catch this next concept because it's a big one. I could literally share it with you, or you could hear it elsewhere 1,000 times, and you're going to need to hear it at least 1,000 more. Identification is something that the guru or the saint or whatever healer has a lot less issue with. So, your original essence, let's call it true nature, if a guru is identified with their true nature, then they're no longer identified with the illusions of the physical body, the emotional pain, the past. They're no longer identified with all those tapes in their head that say, you're not good enough, you're this, you're that, you're the other thing. Through meditation, I say it again, through meditation, through Qigong, through yogic practices, through even martial art and some other practices like this, when we purify that within ourselves, we make the way to become healers, gurus, sages, masters. Because what's the mastery over? The mastery is over the identifications with physical form, with emotional form, because it does have its own form to it, and the mental constructs that we have about ourself. So when you hear a healer, a guru, a sage, somebody talking about awakening from the false self, they're talking about awakening from the ego, yes, or they're talking about awakening from the identification with the physical. What does that mean? It means every time your physical body says, I'm too tired, I don't feel like doing it today. If you're somebody who just doesn't do it because your body doesn't feel like it, then you're identified with your physical body. Masters do things if they decide to do them. So if I get up in the morning and I'm like, wow, I'm really sore today, I'm really uncomfortable from my training yesterday, I have a seminar I'm supposed to teach today, but I'm just going to stay in bed and listen to my body. And it could be my emotions speaking to me. I have apprehension about teaching this group today for whatever reason, maybe just because I'm tired and I'm sore. The master takes that on a walk with him. I just get up and walk that right into the seminar and go into the seminar. And as I'm going into the seminar, let's say, the mind could be going, you're not at your best. Other people are going to notice. But then I practice higher meditation called attention, called awareness. Okay. So how is it then, if you stayed around this long, how is it then that this leads to a master or a sage or a healer's ability to heal? It's very simple. Healing comes when we vibrate to who we really are. We could call that the presence within. We could call that the energy body. We could call that our true nature. The guru, the master, the sage is somehow locked into that. And not just locked into it within themselves, although that has to be true if they're legit. They lock into it within you. The final punchline for today goes like this. You can amplify craziness from your next door neighbor. People do it all the time. What a lot of people don't realize is that you could amplify true nature, the Christ within someone else, the Buddha within someone else, even if it's an unawakened Buddha, you can call forth the light in that person. So when a guru or whoever sits with a group, with an individual, and they connect with that individual, they do a certain amount of dismissing the character, the name, the face, the color, the size of the body, because they're not identifying with the body. because they've already practiced disidentifying from their own body. So why would they identify with your body? So what they then identify with is they then identify with the essence of the individual that's before them, which is why healing can be done at long distances. I don't need to sit in front of someone to offer healing to people or offer peace to someone. One of the last examples I'll give in light of the question asked, think about how long it takes when you go visit a family member who's in a bad mood. You haven't seen him in a year, 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks. You go in, walk in the front door, and you come into the house and they're in a bad mood, and right away your energy drops, right? Doesn't take very long. It's the same, but opposite if you were to go sit with a guru for the weekend. The guru, even if you don't get it, even if you don't understand it, even if you have no idea what the guru said, or you went to see Eckhart Tolle, or you came to one of my Qigong workshops and you're wondering what the heck is all of that stuff that he's talking about because I'm new to this, even if you don't understand it on the intellectual level, the guru, the healer, the sage is always whispering to the light within you. They're always looking at the light within you. They're always amplifying the light within you. And if you stick around that just long enough, you will have an awakening, uh, a realization, a self-realization, a greater realization of who it is that you really are. And in those moments, there's an upliftment out of the first three chakra centers, and there's an upliftment into the heart space where we enter a level of what is called unity consciousness. So every healer, every guru, every sage is emanating at least from the level of their heart and identified at least to some degree at the level of their heart in order to convey a message that would then bring about healing, physical healing, emotional healing, mental healing, healing with a capital H, which is always a form of greater self realization. Now, I know that is a long answer to the question that was asked, but Samantha, and for anyone else who listened, I hope you gained some valuable wisdom from that and had some ahas. Thanks for tuning in. If you like the video, please subscribe, please tell a friend, and I hope to see you soon in another little setting like this. All right, thank you.